and worked with Lloyd a couple of times over the years. But this is going back to 2006. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And I think, from memory, this will have been shot on a 10 or a 20D. I think 10D. Shall we have a look and see if it was a 10 or a 20D? Let's have a look at the file info. Look at that, I didn't even change the name. Bloody hell, I must have bought it off somebody called John Roberts. How bad's that? Hey John, if you're still there. So you can see Canon 10D 35. I mentioned on the last podcast the 35mm lens thing. Oof, we'll not get into that here. 1/8 of the second f10, ISO 100, and that's what I got. And that's just one big softbox off to the right. Probably, I don't know, from memory I probably had my white balance set to daylight, because I kind of, when I was using Canon and Bowen stuff, in fact these weren't Bowen's lights, these will have been the German ones that I had at the time, whose name escapes me. But they were around daylight, so I would have shot to daylight. But you can see there's a little bit of erroneous red and yellow and a bit of green on the right hand side here. So for those of you who have not seen this tutorial before, when you're looking at a histogram to see where your picture is, off to the left here you've got shadows, off to the right here you've got highlights, and when you're shooting on a white background, on the right hand side you should have no peaks of colour. They should just be nice and grey. There might be some very fine thin bits of colour, hair, makeup, but generally speaking you should, that big lump of grey there, that graph, should come all the way to the end. So you can see on here I've got some red, green and yellow. Now remember we're shooting JPEG, not RAW, so in a RAW file you could go in, change your colour balance, bing, do it, back out, but we can't do that here. So what do I do? Well, a tip I learned from Guy Gowan years ago was to use photo filter, and what we do is, where we've got a misbalance of colour, we look at the colour wheel, we put back in the opposite colour that you don't want, and it takes it away, in theory. Sometimes it's a bit fiddly, but if we go on the layers palette and go to photo filter, like that, and drop down, we want to get rid of red first, so red was the biggest colour. The opposite of red is cyan, or blue. We just click on that and get rid of all that, and then just click in the box there where it says 1, and just use the arrow up and down key to gradually, and you can see that red's disappearing. Can you see that? Almost gone. Got a little bit of green come up there, so I'm just going to go back 1%. So 20% of cyan got rid of that red. Now you can see that on the histogram, pretty easy to see. Remember what I said before about it should all be grey here. If you've got little erroneous colours at the top and a little bit of the edge, don't worry about that. That's skin tone. Sometimes they're clothes, but what you're looking for is no mad colours over here to the right hand side. We're slightly underexposed, it's telling us that there, because if we were fully exposed to the max, all the detail on the left would be over to the left, and all the detail on the right here would be over to the right. We're going to fix that next. But straight off the bat, I know, because even it happens to this day on the R6, when I colour calibrate daylight to match daylight bulbs, it never is. It's always off a bit. So the first thing I always check is white balance. So it's no surprise to me, looking back, that Lloyd was a bit off colour, because the camera and the lights didn't quite match. None of that grey card shit, none of that test shooting shit, just match it up and go a little bit of fixing post. Now it took me a minute or two to show you this. It would have took me 10 seconds to do that without showing you. If I just switch off that eye, look on and off, you can see massive difference. Look at the picture, see that? And you don't often notice that until you've done the edit. So that's the first thing done. Next thing, I just want to pinch the exposure a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to use levels. And again, I'm going to go into the palette here, the little black and white circle, come up and pick levels. I do it this way because it gives us a new layer. We're not destructing the original layer, non-destructive editing all the way. And you can see how the histogram here matches the histogram here. And all we're going to do is fine tune each end to get a perfect exposure. Now what I often do, because I like a lot of contrast in my pictures, is I'll pinch the shadows past the point where I should. It's actually there. If I click in the box which says 0 and go 1, 2%, that's probably enough. But I'm going to go to 5 because I like contrast. And then again, over on the right hand side, we don't do any wanging about of sliders here. Lance Burkitt Encounter does not advocate for wanging of sliders. We're all about precision. So this one, if we grab the slider, look, you can see we can overexpose it. If I bring it over here out of the way. See that? Seeing loads of pictures like that where the skin's burnt out to hell. So all we're going to do, instead of doing that, is we're going to click in where it says 255 there. I'm going to hold down Shift key and page down, and I'm going to 10% it across till I get to the beginning of that information there. And I'm just going to go on 2 more percent. Alright, so you can see now, if I switch that off, how we've got more contrast. Quite flat there, nicely shot, but cameras are shit. They don't really give you what you want until you've fixed it, or finished it rather. We switched it on and off, you can see a little bit more. But the only concern for me is, as I'm noticing this as I'm getting older and wiser and more experienced, the tie is now burnt out completely, and it wasn't before. See that? So all I'm going to do is in there, I'm going to press B on the keyboard to get a paintbrush tool. I'm going to take all the hardness off the brush so the edges of the brush are soft, and I'm just going to brush back in some of that detail like that. And it's not made a massive difference. It's probably because it's a silver tie, it's a little overexposed anyway. But see now, I just brushed out by clicking in the mask and using black in the palette. If I make a mistake and I want to put it back, I can just change that by hitting X on the keyboard, and it brushes it back on. See that? On and off. So that's the kind of only tweak I'm going to do there, like that. Alright, happy with that now. That's my edit. For all intents and purposes, done. Alright. JPEG, 19 years old. I'm not 19 years old. The JPEG it there is a 19-year-old JPEG off a 10D. A great camera. Soft 35-80mm lens. Beginner stuff. I'd only just started. Got fuck all money. It's further proof that you don't have to have everything in the world to be a successful photographer. The only thing I'm going to do now with this is sharpen it a little bit, because I know because of the kit I was using, it's not very sharp. I want it to be a little sharper. So to do that, I'm going to use a process again that I learned off Guy Gowan. Kudos to Guy. That I've used for 20 years, which is a great way of fine-tuning and only sharpening the bits you want to be sharp. So at this point, you can't put any sharpness on these adjustment layers. They're kind of a bit in the way. So all we do is Control, Shift, and E, and that'll flatten them. So the effects of them are still there, but they're kind of hidden in the background now. We're back down to one background layer. So how do I sharpen then? Okay, so we're going to make a mask. We're going to make a mask using the red channel, inverted, and that's because it's going to make us a mask where we only apply the sharpening to certain points. So I'll just show you what to do. You've got to have your channels open. Click on the red channel, click it down to new, right? So it's made a copy. Control and I inverts it. You can see now it's inverted. All I want to do is really sharpen the white bits, not the black bits. But it's a little bit, particularly the eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit more to that by going up to image adjustment levels and just adding some real big levels to that mask. Yeah, and if I drag that across like that and drag that across, you can see I'm going really mad here. But what I know is when I apply this mask, it will only affect the white areas. Alright, so I'm going to load that mask in now by pressing Control on the keyboard. Can you see how it highlights the pointer? Click in there, you can see it's now loaded that into the picture. I'm going to go to channels and click on RGB just so I can see the picture, and I'm going to turn off the extras. Turn off extras, I can't see the marching ants. They're still there, just can't see them. So it's still selected, but we can't see it. It's easy to work with. And I'm just going to go to filter, sharpen, easy, it says, unsharp mask, and I'm going to whack 500 on to start with. So if I look at that preview, can you see that? Look at round his eyes, look how soft they were. Look how they're not now. Now look at his beard and his suit. Look how soft it is. Look how it's not soft now. Soft, sharp. 500's probably a bit much, so I'm going to go with 300. Again, you can see that's nice. Click OK. Zoom out. Fit the screen. Job done. So it's taken me 10 minutes to show you how to do that. But that would have taken me in the edit now probably 30 seconds. Maybe a minute if I was drinking my tea. So at this point, we're going to stop and think, right, what would I what benefit would I have gained at this point from a RAW file? So what could I have done differently on a RAW file? Well, apart from using a different means to adjust the colour, which was off, and a different means to adjust the exposure, which was a bit under, what else could I do with that RAW file that I can't do with JPEG? Well, I could say I might bring some more detail out. Let's say in the RAW file, if I had it, I'd want to bring a bit more detail out where the shadows are. I don't, because it's actually quite nice as it is, but could I do that if I wanted to do that? I could, but I don't want to in this instance because I was in a studio. I was only a year into photography. I was in my studio using a shitty camera with a shitty lens with some second-hand multi-blitz lights, they were called, working with a big softbox that I got off of eBay for about 30 quid, doing my best, working with some great people to help me, learning from others, learning from watching then DVDs and going to seminars, picking brains and doing everything I could to become the best photographer that I could be. The magenta in the shot here that you can see up here is just Lloyd's skin tones. So I don't want to pull any out, but if I wanted to, I have another process. And again, it's all about using maths and about using savvy.